Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Aitareya Institute, where I, Manvi Srivastav, will be teaching you current affairs for today. Today is 7th of July, and we have these topics to be studied. The first is landslides. This is important for your GS paper 1 and 3. The second is semiconductors. It is about the India's semiconductor push. It is important for your GS paper 3. Third is about the pyre protests. The pyre protests are important for your mains examinations. Then the next is UFOSS, that is underwater fiber optic sensing system. It is important for your preliminary examination. Then we have UNGCP, which is the United Nations Guideline for Consumer Protection. This is also important for your prelims. Then we have Pandavani folk tradition. It is a folk tradition and it is important for your prelims. Then we have SOLVE, which is called Suborbital Launch Vehicle for Experiments. After that, we have two topics, asteroid Torifune. Asteroid Torifune is also important for your prelims. And then we have some geography, which is Indonesia. We have to study Indonesia today. These are the topics that we will be studying today. Let us look at the current affairs today. Okay, let us begin with the first topic, which is landslides. There are landslides happening in Maharashtra. Now, severe landslides have struck Maharashtra and it has forced the closure of major transit routes, including the Mumbai-Pune Expressway and Mumbai-Goa Highway. Let me mark it for you. These have struck the Maharashtra area and have forced the closure of Mumbai-Pune Expressway and Mumbai-Goa Highway. The rail traffic was severely disrupted with 16 trains being cancelled. 16 trains have been cancelled and 9 have been directed along the Karjat-Lonavala Ghat section. The Karjat-Lonavala Ghat section, which is not as important. Let us take a look at the next slide. What is a landslide? This is important for you because you have to understand the definition of a landslide before you can understand what is the effect of a landslide. So a landslide refers to the rapid downward and outward movement. What kind of movement? It is a rapid movement, it is not slow. It is a downward and outward movement of slope forming material. And what are these slope forming materials? These are rocks, soil, organic matter, and artificial fill. And why does it happen? It happens under gravity, under the impact of gravity. So if there is land and there is steep forming material which cause the slope, and these are rocks, soil, organic material, and some artificial fills, this pour downward and outward very rapidly. It is happening under gravity. This is called a landslide. When does it happen? It happens when shear stress on a slope exceeds the shear strength of the underlying soil and rock layer. Shear stress drags the material downwards because their shear strength does not feel that it is able to combat the shear stress of the gravity being caused on it. This is classified as mass wasting event, which is very important for you. There are a few things you will remember in this, which are number 1, mass wasting event, number 2, rapid movement, number 3, downward and outward movement, and number 4, what other slope forming materials like soil, rock, organic matter, organic fill, and it happens when shear stress is more than the shear strength of the material. Now, what is the India's landslide exposure? Now we will study some key data and stats on landslides in India. So around 50% of India's land area is vulnerable to landslides. How much? 15%. 15% of India's total area is vulnerable at the risk of landslides. Next, we have some high risk zones. This 15% is also equal to 0.42 million square kilometers, which is actually a large area. Don't just look at the 0.42, look at the million square kilometers part also. This is a very large area of India, which is actually at a vulnerability to landslides. Next, we have the high risk zones. What are the high risk zones? The high risk zones or the hotspots, major hotspots are Himalayas, Northeast India, Western Ghats, and the Eastern Ghats. Why does it happen? Because the terrain is very fragile in this area. The terrain is very fragile in this area. When we talk about the seismic risk, we should talk about the landslides happening in seismic zone 4 and 5. So these are landslide prone areas where the earthquakes further increase the slope instability. When we talk about the word seismic, we are reminded of earthquakes. Sorry about this mishap. Okay, just focus on this. When we talk about seismic, we talk about earthquakes. So in these areas, earthquakes increase the slope instability, and these fall under the category of seismic zone 4 and 5, and hence they are more landslide prone also. So we have high risk areas, Himalayas, Northeast India, Western Ghat, Eastern Ghat. Then vulnerable areas, 15%, that is 0.42 million square kilometer. And then seismic zones 4 and 5, where earthquake causes high risk of landslides. Let us look at the map also. These areas in blue, the Himalayas, the northeastern belt, and this area is at a very high risk. Then we have high hazard areas, these areas. Then we have moderate, and then we have low hazard areas. Let us look at the factors that cause the landslides. First of all, there's intense and prolonged rainfall or precipitation. So the heavy downpours, they rapidly increase the groundwater pore pressure. The pore pressure in the groundwater increases, and it adds to the weight of the unstable slopes and weakens the soil cohesion. Cohesion and adhesion, you must have heard in your physics class. Cohesion means the attractive force between similar elements, similar materials, and adhesion means attractive force between different materials. So the soil particles have an attractive force between them, which is called cohesion. So the soil cohesion holds it together. But when in the pores of the soil there is water, more and more water is absorbed, the pore pressure increases and it separates the soil. So the pore pressure weakens the soil cohesion, and that is why when the cohesion weakens, the shear strength weakens, and then whenever some pressure is added, whenever the slope is under pressure, the slope becomes unstable and it breaks. So heavy downpours, what is the process? There's heavy downpour. It increases the groundwater pore pressure. Remember pore pressure. It adds weight to unstable slopes and weakens soil cohesion. The soil cohesion weakens. For example, the July 2026 monsoon saturated slopes along Khopoli-Kusgaon corridor. This can be asked in the examination. This corridor. This triggered sudden boulder falls. Sudden boulder falls. Okay. This corridor is also called the missing link corridor. What is it called? The missing link corridor. Next, we have unscientific hill cutting. What is it done for? Hills are cut and there's no scientific base to it. It is cut anyway without a lot of research. This is for linear infrastructure. So steep vertical cuts are made for highways. The hills are like this, and this separates the pressure on the ground. But when they're cut like this, vertically and very steep cuts for highways and rail links to pass without any engineering, these slopes destabilize and lose the natural equilibrium of the slope. So carving steep vertical cuts for the linear infrastructure like highways or rails, this weakens the slope reinforcements, weakens it, destabilizes the natural slope equilibrium. Okay. So this rapid transport widening the ecological sensitive Konkan region also is an example of it. You have heard about the Konkan region? Have you heard about the Konkan region? In the comment section, I want you to write down what is the Konkan region. Okay, this is a coastal area. The India's coast have been divided into various areas: Malabar, Northern Sarkars, Konkan, and all these. I want you to write down the names of the coast and what is the Konkan region. Okay. Next, let us talk about this. Deforestation is also another factor contributing to it. Deforestation causes the loss of vegetative root anchors. When we see this slope and there are trees on the slope, the roots hold the slope together. First of all, the soil cohesion holds the soil together, and secondly, the slope distributes the pressure on the base, and thirdly, the roots of the trees and the plants, they hold the soil together, they hold the entire slope together. When deforestation happens, it removes trees and then the deep tree roots, which exposes the topsoil, and whenever rain falls, this soil is completely eroded. So deforestation is also important factor in causing the landslides. Removing the deep tree roots leaves the topsoil exposed to intense sheet erosion. What kind of erosion? This is something you have to remember. Sheet erosion is being caused here, okay, because of the rain impact. Examples are vegetation clearance on Mussoorie's steep slope leaves soil vulnerable to sliding. This is about the Mussoorie slope. This one, hill cutting, is about the Konkan region, and then intense rainfall is about Khopoli-Kusgaon corridor. Then we have tectonic activity like the seismic zone 4 and 5 we studied about. What happens because of tectonic activity, everybody? The constant movement of the crust. There's this crust and then there's mantle. The crust movement it fractures the mountain rocks. If there's a rock and the crust moves, the rock base is completely fractured and completely broken. And this actually creates active planes of weakness. There are planes that are weak and they slide completely. So crustal movements fracture the mountain rocks and they create active planes of weakness. These are planes of weakness. Examples are Uttarakhand's young Himalayan belts, and these experience rock slides even under minor rainfall because the base of the rocks has already been broken. The minor rainfalls and minor seismic triggers. Next up, we have key challenges in landslide risk management. What are a few challenges that we face so that we are not able to manage the landslides properly even after research? First is remote and inaccessible terrains. How are we going to manage them if we cannot even access them? There are emergency units for landslide management and they cannot even reach these areas. The many vulnerable settlements are located in rugged hinterlands, making rapid rescue difficult. Rescue becomes difficult and it cannot be done timely because of these inaccessible terrains. They are not accessible to the emergency teams and they are very remote in very far and disconnected areas. Examples: landslide in Pune's Mawal Taluka. Remember the names and the examples that we're giving. You can have a match the following on it, or in fact when you create notes for it, create a match the following for yourself, match it column wise. Okay, the kind of landslide, the cause, the area and the name. The landslide in Pune's Mawal Taluka, they required specialized heavy gear from the 5th Battalion of NDRF to reach remote Patan village. Only when they used this specialized heavy gear, they were able to reach this Patan village because this village is so remote. Okay. Next up we have the second one is severe weather impending air and surface logistics. Even if we're trying to continue the rescue operation through the air and through surface, how does it get hindered? Because of the weather conditions. So there's heavy rain, there are thick cloud cover, and during the disaster, this heavy rain and this thick cloud cover, they block the air support from reaching it. And even the surface level operations, even on the land, they endanger this operation. They endanger the people conducting the operation. For example, the debris when it was being cleared on the Mumbai-Goa highway near Chiplu. This debris clearance or clearing the waste material accumulated, it was delayed because the continuous rain triggered a secondary rockfall. First of all, a rockfall happened. There was debris and material and rock fragments collected on the highway of Mumbai and Goa. And while it was being collected, it got delayed because then the rain and the heavy weather caused a second rockfall. So this is an example of severe weather, and this does not just impact airborne operations but also land operations. Next we have the weak land use zoning enforcement. What does it mean? The weak regional enforcement of land use zoning regulations. There are zoning regulations. The local municipal bodies, they fail to enforce this building bans because there are building bans on designated high risk slopes and the local bodies fail to actually regulate and enforce them, and this leads to unsafe constructions on high risk slopes. If there are constructions on high risk slopes, when the risk actually comes, when the disaster strikes, these will fall first and these will weak the land use zoning enforcement. This weak land use zoning enforcement will cause multifold expansion of the disaster. Let us talk about the next thing, which is the shortage of mesoscale real-time early warning system. Most regions lack a localized ground sensor which can detect initial soil movement, and since there is no ground sensor, it makes it very difficult to issue any evacuation notice. Real-time early warning systems are not present in most regions. They lack the localized ground sensors to detect any initial soil movements, and hence it is difficult to issue timely evacuation notices. Okay, difficult without the mesoscale monitoring infrastructure. Okay. Next up, we're talking about the NDMA guidelines. What are the NDMA guidelines? The National Disaster Management Authority, or the NDMA, it has national guidelines and that outline a comprehensive mix of structural and non-structural practices to manage the landslide risk. Okay, How can the landslide risk be managed? There are some structural and some non-structural practices, and this entire list of these practices has been provided as a guideline outline by the NDMA, or the National Disaster Management Authority. First is about compiling the comprehensive landslide inventories. The Geological Survey of India, that is the GSI, has been tasked with mapping and maintaining and updating the database of national landslide incidences. All the incidences, all the landslide incidences that happen have to be mapped, have to be maintained, and have to be updated as a complete database by the Geological Survey of India. This is very important. Okay, this is called a landslide inventory. What is a landslide inventory and who makes it? A landslide inventory is a collection of all the data related to every landslide happening, and it has the mapping, it has the maintenance, and it has updating of the entire database, and this is done by Geological Survey of India. Next is executing macro and meso scale hazard mapping. So in this, there's a creation of a detailed landslide hazard zonation. What is landslide hazard zonation map? This map are talking about the different zones which have different level of hazard from landslides, and the scales are 1 is to 50,000 and 1 is to 10,000. These are two scales to identify the high risk zones and to guide safe infrastructure planning. This is the macro and this is the mesoscale hazard mapping. Next up is mandate implementing structural slope stabilization. How is slope stabilization? The slope should be stabilized. How can it be done structurally? By using the engineering. This kind of engineering that stabilizes the slope. What does it involve? It mandates the use of retaining walls. There should be walls around it, retaining walls. There should be rock bolting around it. There can be wire mesh netting. Anchoring system can also be there to secure these unstable slopes along roads and critical structures so that debris does not fall on it. This is called implementing structural slope stabilization engineering. Okay. Next is prioritizing safe and subsurface drainage management. We talk about drainage management. Here we talk about the infrastructure or the engineering that can be used in stabilization. How can drainage management help it? Subsurface drainage management and surface drainage management by developing a dedicated channel network that can safely route all the storm away water from the fragile slopes away, and it can also keep the pore water pressure within safe limits. Hence, in that way, we can manage the drainage. Now, what is the way forward? Way forward is number one, deploying AI powered early warning systems. We can install automated ground sensors, different extensometers, and smart rain gauges, and these can be installed along key transport lines, the Mumbai Pune Expressway, for example, and these can broadcast real time evacuation alerts. First is making sure we have sensors in place. Okay, deploying AI powered early warning systems. Next is mandate the netting and rock catch barriers, the infrastructure, the stabilization engineering that we talked about. We can construct heavy steel catch fences and the rock fall shelters above the vulnerable section of major highways to shield the vehicles passing from the falling stones. We have often seen this in the news, often heard this on the reels, that a stone fell on a passing car because of the landslide, and these things happen. Next, we have to integrating high resolution drone mapping updates. High resolution drone mapping updates, or the LIDAR. Use LIDAR and drone imagery to audit the vulnerable slopes biannually. There should be biannual audit of these slopes, and this will allow the engineering team to identify new ground cracks before the monsoon arrives. And before monsoon arrives, if we can take care of the cracks in the ground, then there will be less pore pressure, less water accumulation, less destabilization, less landslide. Next, we have enforcing strict bans on unscientific slope cutting, that is the vertical cutting of the mountains and the hills. What does it do? The mountains that are structurally designed by nature to distribute the pressure on this bottom, the cutting takes away the distribution and there's more pressure, and then the landslides happen. So the state transport department must avoid unscientific road widening. Roads need to be widened. I understand that, we all understand that, but it should not be unscientific. It should mandate instead terraced benching. Instead of vertical cutting, there should be terraced benching, different stepwise, and geotextile soil reinforcement on all hill projects. I want you to go to the comment section and comment about the geotextile reinforcement after googling this. This is a very interesting thing. It will take barely 2 minutes from your side to understand geotextile reinforcement. It is an interesting idea, okay, and very innovative also. Let us talk about strengthening community-led emergency response teams. How, the emergency response team should not be just the trained people and the actual people who are in the emergency response team. We can also train the community to become a part of the emergency response team. So community can lead the emergency response team, and this structure, this entire organization of things should be strengthened. We can train the local village volunteers in remote areas, especially in the inaccessible areas, and these can be the first line of rescue. They can help in early rescues and the emergency communication. So the first aid protocols should be given to them, early training should be given to them, and immediate support should be provided. Hence, and before the rescue teams arrive, they can be the first line of rescue. Next, next we have the conclusion. While agencies like, let us go here. Okay, we have come to the next news. I'll conclude it for you. So there are agencies like Geological Survey of India, there are agencies like NDRF, National Disaster Relief Force. They all provide valuable mapping and emergency support. They're trying. But still, recurring highway closures and there are tragic housing collapse is still happening. And these highlight the cost of weak local reinforcement. At the national level, we're making highways, but at the local level, we're not reinforcing the infrastructure. And this highlights this gap. There's unplanned hill development, there's weak local reinforcement. And moving forward, we can transform the NDMA's hazard guidelines into binding municipal codes. They should be binding. And no such unscientific construction could happen. And we can also deploy automated early warning networks. Second is automated early warning networks so that evacuation can be easy, and these will remain vital, and these will protect the public safety and secure the national transit corridor. Okay, let us talk about the next news, which is India's semiconductor push. Why is it in news? Because Prime Minister of India inaugurated the commercial production phase of the CG semi outsourced semiconductor assembly and test. That is CG semi outsourced semiconductor assembly and test facility in Sanand, Gujarat. Where? Sanand, Gujarat. This is important. And this is outsourced semiconductor assembly and test facility. It is a landmark moment for India's ambition to become a self-reliant global chip manufacturing hub. What is it? So India's semiconductor push is comprehensive and state-backed industrial strategy. It is a comprehensive, very detailed strategy, and it is backed by the state. And it aims to build a localized, that is in a small area, a localized full stack of electronics value chain, completely manufactured in India. It can include everything from chip design, fabrication, assembly, assembling together, testing it, packaging it. And the whole, this is the entire push for semiconductors, and it is being governed by India Semiconductor Mission. It is governed by what? India Semiconductor Mission. And this initiative actually seeks to transition the country from a consumer of the foreign microelectronics to self-reliant global manufacturing hub, which we can also export later on. So what are the some semiconductors that India has created so far? First of all is Sanand OSAT packing cluster. This is in Sanand, Gujarat. Sanand, Gujarat hosts three distinct facilities. How many facilities? Three distinct facilities. First is Micron Technologies ATMP. Please remember this. Just remember it as it is. No need to go into detail. Micron Technology is a company, and its ATMP facility is number one. The second is Kinase Semicon OSAT unit, an OSAT unit by Kinase Semicon, and then the new one, which is CG Semi. CG Semi. Okay. So India's premier chip packaging hub is now operational. This is all about packaging. This is the packaging cluster. There are different levels of semiconductor manufacturing, and one of them is assembling and one of them is packaging. This is about packaging. Next, we talk about the mega wafer fabrication plant. It is by Tata Electronics Private Limited, TEPL. The mega wafer fabrication plant, TEPL, in Dholera. Where? It is in Dholera, Gujarat. Again, it is in Gujarat, Dholera. This was in Sanand, Gujarat. So this is in partnership with Tata Electronics and Taiwan's PSMC, and it set up India's first commercial silicon foundry. India's first commercial silicon foundry in Dholera, Gujarat. So first silicon output target is for late 2026. Okay. Next, we have advanced 3D packaging in Bhubaneswar. Even in Bhubaneswar, not just in Gujarat. Okay, in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, we have advanced 3D packaging infra. So India has executed the groundbreaking of its first specialized heterogeneous integration and advanced 3D packaging unit. This is also about packaging and integration, that is assembly together. It is in Odisha, Bhubaneswar. What is it? It is designated to fuel the AI and defense application. What is it for? AI and defense. Next up, we have design linked intensive ecosystem, that is DLI ecosystem, which is supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. In this, there are 24 fabless semiconductor design startups, and they are backed by a database of over 67,000 students who have been trained on the advanced EDA design tools. What is the importance of semiconductor to the nation? Let us study this. The importance of semiconductor to the nation. Why are the semiconductors so important? Number one, national security. They are the core of national security. Microchips are the backbone of the critical defense infrastructure, powering advanced guidance system, and they secure the aerospace satellites and they localize the radar network. This is all very important. These all 4 points are important. First is they are the backbone of critical defense systems. How? They power the advanced guidance system. The advanced guidance system, first of all, then the aerospace satellites, and then the radar networks. Let us talk about the AI and supercomputing, powering the AI boom. So, achieving leadership in the AI, robotics, and the next generation supercomputing era. This is impossible without uninterrupted access to computing advanced silicon. Next is fueling the automotive and telecom industries. The local chip assembly secures vital support line for India's massive electric vehicle manufacturing. And this whole transition to the EV and the nationwide 5G and 6G commercial rollout is impossible without what? Without these semiconductors. Next is high skill jobs. Everybody knows about this. So the transition to commercial chip packing, it transforms the local human capital. Okay, and it gives them skills. So the workers grow from just agrarian workers to high-tech precision clean room engineering roles. Okay, and next up, last important thing is we have import resilience, so that there are vulnerabilities in our import. There are fragile import vulnerabilities which need to be mitigated. So the domestic fabrication of these things, it stabilizes the macroeconomy. It prevents certain foreign factory lockdowns. If the foreign factory is locked down, we are not just left in the shallow waters. Okay, we know what to do. We have an economy in our own country that manufactures and that fabricates these chips. Okay, so even if there are lockdowns in factories, even if there are choke points, blockades, and there's no import, then we have import resilience and we have our own factories. Okay, what are the key challenges associated with the semiconductor push? First is massive long-term capital demand. First key challenge is building and operating subsurface wafer fabs. It requires continuous capital and it exceeds the initial 76,000 crores that has been designated as a baseline. How much is the baseline? 76,000. But this requires how much? A lot and continuous capital. Okay. Next is the competition. So the market is extremely vulnerable and there's monopoly, there's monopolistic competition. So there are global giants like Taiwan, China, South Korea, and they command this deep ecosystem advantages. And hence there's a fierce market competition. So in emerging Indian packaging plants face that competition, which is actually a key challenge in semiconductor manufacturing and self-reliance. Next, we have high reliance on ultra pure utilities. We highly rely on these. Operating precision clean rooms, they require absolutely continuous and uninterrupted supply of millions of gallons of deionized water. And this, if this supply is interrupted, then the things are contaminated. And this also requires highly stable power, continuous power supply. So we have high reliance on these things. Next, a shortage of domestic raw materials and gases. The raw material is on short. So India lacks this internal supply chain for this manufacturing. There's no supply chain. Specialized precursor chemical substrates, photomasks, ultra pure, everything that is written here, ultra pure electronic grade gases. A lack of this supply, these leaves the foundries reliant on the import for the raw materials. If we're not dependent on semiconductors for import, we're dependent on import of raw materials. So even the raw materials are in less supply. The steep learning curve for advanced fabrication. Even manufacturing this, even fabricating semiconductors, the learning curve of this manufacturing is very steep. So while packaging and testing, that is OSAT, are being successfully commercialized, cracking the complex physics of advanced sub 10 nanometer logic node wafer fabrication, they remain a steep hurdle. Okay, way forward. First of all, we have to aggressively fund the semiconductor mission 2.0. There's a semiconductor, India Semiconductor Mission 2.0. Let me highlight of it. It has to be aggressively funded with 1.25 lakh crore for broadening the public support towards manufacturing equipment, um, materials, specialized materials, and the indigenous intellectual property rights. Okay. Second is establish dedicated green energy and water corridor. The state government should actually establish these, for example, in clusters like Dholera and Sanad. Next is this one, transitioning to advanced multi-vendor IP design fabs. So when we expand the scope of the design link incentive scheme, it can support at least 50 local fabless chip design firms. If we can expand the scope, it creates a reliable pipeline for indigenous silicon layouts. And last but not the least, expanding specialized international training pacts. The extensive training that needs to be done, it can be done in pacts with advanced nations like Malaysia, Singapore, and Japan, and this will upskill the local engineers. And last is enforcing made in India microchip procurement quotas. So if when we implement the gradual domestic sourcing, this mandate of gradual domestic sourcing, it will mandate across the public infrastructure bids, electric vehicle incentives, and government defense tenders. They will all create a guaranteed local market for this when the semiconductors are being fabricated. Lastly, we move to the next news of the day, which is the pyre protest. Pyre protest where women were laying on their funeral pyre. The protest has again resumed. The Chita Andolan has resumed in MP. Why? Was it happening? Because people are impacted by the link project, river linking project. Which rivers are being linked? Ken and Bitwa. The Ken Bitwa river linking project has affected a lot of people. There's a lot of delay in the rehabilitation, in the compensation, in the settlement, and that is why this protest is being conducted in MP. This is also called Chita Andolan. Okay, now let us talk about the Chita Andolan. What is it? It is a peaceful protest. Okay, what is it? Is it a violent protest? No, it is a peaceful protest, and it is symbolic. It is symbolic of what? Dead people, that people who are losing their land, home, forest, and livelihood. It is equivalent to social death. Social death of people. This is an important thing that you have to remember for your mains answer writing. A peaceful symbolic protest. The symbol is social death by the loss of their lands, homes, forests, and livelihood. The slogan is provide us justice or else death. The aim is to demand fair rehabilitation, adequate compensation, timely resettlement of the families that are being displaced by the major development projects. For example, the Ken Betwa project. Key features are symbolic. The protesters they gather around the funeral pyre, and the slogan is "Provide us justice or death," and this actually symbolizes their extreme distress. Nextly, this is a tribal-led movement. So this is mainly led by the tribal women. Okay, this is again very important when you talk about women creating social impact. This is a great example. And again, the Ken Betwa Link project and other projects in Madhya Pradesh are being protested. So it started about the Ken Betwa Link project, but now it involves every project that causes the resettlement. There are demands. The key demands are number one, rehabilitation demands. Protesters are saying that there are delay in compensation in housing and rehabilitation packages, and then there are forced demolitions even before the resettlement has been carried out. Their houses are being demolished, and then there are environmental concerns. The loss of forest cover is also been happening. Then even the wildlife is impacted, like the Panna Tiger Reserve. What is it? The Panna Tiger Reserve is being encroached, and there is ecological damage also to Ken River. What is the significance of this protest? This protest highlights the importance of balancing infrastructure development with social justice, and it has to ensure rehabilitation, it has to ensure resettlement, proper timely compensation, livelihood protection, and everything for the displaced communities because of the project. Also, it reinforces the need for participatory development. People or communities that are being forced to resettle or rehabilitate should be a part of the development. They should participate in the development. So it reinforces the need for participatory development. Environmental safeguards, for example, the Panna Tiger Reserve, Cane River, they should have environmental safeguards and be protected during this project. And then constitutional protection of tribal rights in developmental projects. Okay, this was it for this news. Let us talk about the next news, which is the Underwater Fiber Optic Sensing System, UFOSS, the Underwater Fiber Optic Sensing System. Now, the DRDO has launched it, which is very important. Anytime DRDO launches something new, it becomes important for your preliminary examination. DRDO has launched a major naval project. What kind of project is it? It is a naval project. It is released on the Indian Ocean seabed. Indian Ocean seabed, the bed or the base of the sea. This is the seabed. What will it do? It will detect submarines and it will counter the rising Chinese and Pakistani underwater activity. The Chinese and Pakistani underwater activity is continuously rising. They're not just active on land. So this project will detect the submarines. This project will detect submarines. And this will counter these rising activities by these two nations. This is happening in the Indian Ocean region, especially in the Indian Ocean seabed. Okay, next up. How does it work? How does this work? Underwater fiber optic sensing system. So it is fixed and it is non-collapsible. These are two important terms that you have to remember. Fixed and non-collapsible. It is an underwater surveillance grid. The underwater fiber operating system, the underwater fiber optic sensing system is a fixed and non-collapsible network of advanced undersea acoustic and hydrographic sensors. There are acoustic, sound, and hydrographic, that is water-related sensors in the undersea. Okay, and they are anchored to the ocean floor. Where are they? They are anchored to the ocean floor. So these actually anchored to the ocean floor. When they are anchored, it serves as India's version of strategic underwater surveillance grid. Okay, this is an underwater surveillance grid and this is India's version of it. It has been designed to provide continuous long-term tracking, continuous and long-term tracking of the undersea battle space. Undersea also there's a battle space and it is being tracked continuously and long-term across the maritime choke points. What are the objectives of it? The objective is to eliminate gaps that are left by the periodic ship and aircraft patrols that are being happening. So they also leave some gaps, and to bridge these gaps, this project has been launched in the Indian Ocean region. Also, it will detect the quiet and modern conventional submarines, like the Pakistan's newly acquired Chinese-built Hangor class boats. Which boats? Hangor class boats. They have the air-dependent propulsion and the Chinese nuclear attack submarines. How does it work? Number one is the acoustic capture. When an uninvited submarine or a vessel passes over the network, whenever a submarine passes over the network, the propeller makes a noise, the engines make vibration, and the machinery actually makes a hum. These sounds are picked up by the hydrophones. These hydrophones are where? On the mounting on the seabed, where we have mounted them on the seabed, right? They capture this noise, acoustic capture. Second is optical transformation. So these sound waves that are physical, that can only be felt, they are converted into optical signals. How? Digitally or on paper somehow. They're converted into optical signals and they're carried through the armored subsea fiber optic cables. There are fiber optic cables and these are converted into visual signals and these are transmitted through that and they pass through the junction boxes and the branching units. So there's optical transmission again of these acoustic sounds, acoustic waves. And then there are shore station analysis. Shore station analysis. This data stream passes through a secure beach manhole around the beach and it enters the naval shore monitoring station. At the shore, there's a naval monitoring station. So the high-speed computers then analyze this signal or the acoustic signatures that are now optic and visual, and then they compare it against a database and they identify the exact class of the vehicle that they have found. That is actually uninvited. So after that, once the target is confirmed, there's an active deployment. The shore station that received everything and compared everything, it sends a precise coordinate of the uninvited ship, and it sends these coordinates to the Navy, the Navy's active fleet, and then this fleet deploys the P-81 Maritime Protocol aircraft. This which aircraft? P-81 Maritime aircraft, patrol aircraft, and then the MH-60R helicopters or warships. Okay, so this is the whole process. First, we do the acoustic capture, number one, and then there's the optical transmission of these signals. Third, the shore station receives it and analyzes and compares it and precisely tells which kind of ship is being uninvitedly entering the area. And fourth, there's active deployment of P-81, MH-60R, and some warships. This is the entire, this is what? This is the entire process by which it happens. Okay. So next, what are the key technical features? First is advanced wet plant agriculture. What is a wet plant agriculture? It is a highly durable and marine grade underwater component. It includes sensory array nodes, subsea junction boxes, branching units, and all of these things that are fit for being underwater in salty waters. It can withstand high pressure. It can withstand the corrosion caused by the salt of the water. Second is the 20-year lifespan. Lifespan is 20 years. The entire system is engineered for a continuous 20-year service life, and it also requires highly reliable components, and these components can function underwater for decades without any maintenance being required for the next 20 years. Next is deep sea burial protection. Deep sea burial protection, there can be accidental damage in deep sea, so to protect from that, protect any damage from the ongoing commercial ship anchors, fishing trawls, or deliberately sabotaging the ships, to protect from this damage, the infrastructure will be buried deep in the seabed. Okay, it will also use specialized cable burial pros and remotely operated vehicles that can bury it in the seabed. Next is consortium-led integration. The project will allow a lead bidder. Okay, a bidder will partner with the 5 specialized engineering firms, and this will combine the expertise along with subsea cable manufacturing and marine geography survey, and it will automate shore monitoring software. Next is the 48-month execution target, which is probably the most important point here. The procurement and the setup timeline is planned across a 48-month window from the final contract award, and it is managed directly by a specialized lease system integrator. Okay. Next, we talk about the United Nations Guideline for Consumer Protection. So India has been appointed as a chair. Okay, it will chair what? The 9th session of Intergovernance Group of Experts. India has been appointed chair. Chair what? 9th session. Session of what? Intergovernmental Group of Experts of what? Consumer Protection Law and Policy. This has been organized by UNCTAD. UNCTAD is what? What is UNCTAD? I want you to tell me what is UNCTAD. Okay, let me tell you. UNCTAD. Okay, write down in the comment section, please. In the comment section. Okay, UNCTAD is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This is organizing this entire this is organizing this entire 9th session of what? Intergovernmental Group of Experts on Consumer Protection Law and Policy. It is being organized in Geneva, Switzerland. This is where it is organized, and it is a significant recognition for India's global standing in consumer rights governance. Let us talk about UNCGP. UNCGP is United Nations Guideline for Consumer Protection. What is UNCGP? It is a comprehensive, internationally agreed set of declarations, and these declarations outline the core characteristic of effective consumer protection legislation and institutional reinforcement and dispute redressal systems. Okay, so it is functionally classified as a non-binding soft law instrument, but it acts as a primary global blueprint for the member states to formulate and to harmonize domestic consumer safety laws. Okay. Next, it was established where? It was adopted in UNGA, or United Nations General Assembly, under the resolution 39/248 on 16 April 1985. Then it was further expanded in 1999, and it integrated sustainable development also here. Here it what? Integrated sustainable development, and it was heavily revised in December 2015 to address some modern digital landscapes. Okay. Next, what are the objectives of it? The objectives are to correct structural, economic, educational, and bargaining imbalances that exist between individual consumers and the powerful corporate enterprises. This is the reason it has been formed, and it will provide a foundational legislative skeleton for developing the countries to establish the functioning domestic consumer protection regimes that countries already have in place. So this legislature skeleton will actually help them establish functioning domestic consumer protection regimes. Next, we have the key features of UNCGP. First of all, it is physical safety and product recalls. So the government is required to enforce product safety standards, and it has to ensure that the manufacturers, they promptly recall the defective products back from the market, and they compensate the consumer if the safety risks have emerged. First of all, this physical safety and product recalls. Second one is protection of economic interests. So it protects the consumer from unfair contracts and from the misleading advertisements like 100% pure, like cold pressed completely, no chemicals, no sugar added. If they are false and misleading, then it has to protect the consumer from that, from fraudulent services, from predatory lending, from food adulteration through appropriate legal safeguards being put in place. Next is information consumer education. So it promotes clear hazard labels. Labels should have the clear details of the hazard. Internationally recognized safety symbols should be put in place so that all nations have the similar safety symbols. And then consumer awareness programs should be run. What will it do? It will encourage the informed purchasing. Purchasers should be well informed. People should read the labels. The labels should also be clearly visible and will ensure that there is safe product use. Then we have digital and e-commerce provisions of 2015. What does it do? It extends consumer protection to online markets. It promotes what? Data privacy, online dispute resolution, secure digital transaction, and safeguards for cross-border e-commerce. Okay, protection to online markets in 2015, digital and e-commerce provisions. Next, we have sustainable consumption. It encourages production of energy efficient and environment friendly goods. While it also promotes responsible consumption of these goods, this will support the sustainable development which was put in place later on in 1999. Okay, what is the significance of it? Significance is that the UNGCP established internally accepted consumer rights, and it has guided the national consumer laws. It also includes India's Consumer Protection Act. Okay. Next, also important significance is that it provides a common framework for different countries for addressing online frauds, for protecting digital consumers, for resolving cross-border e-commerce disputes, and everything that is being done effectively. Next news is Pandavani folk tradition. Pandavani folk tradition. What is this folk tradition and why is it in news? So the President of India and some other senior leaders, they paid their rich tribute to the legendary Padma Vibhushan awardee. Which award she received? Padma Vibhushan awardee Tijan Bai. Tijan Bai. And Tijan Bai recently passed away in Raipur, Chhattisgarh, where Raipur, Chhattisgarh at the age of 72. So Tijan Bai is a Padma Vibhushan awardee. She is also following the rich tradition of Pandavani folk. She passed away in Raipur, Chhattisgarh, and Indian president paid tribute to her. What is the Pandavani folk tradition? Pandavani means story or song of the Pandavas. It is a very expressive folk theatre art, and there are ballads that are being sung in style from Central India. Where does it come from? It comes from Central India. What does it involve? There's musical narration and there's dramatic reenactment of the episodes of Mahabharat, the ancient Indian epic Mahabharat. It focuses heavily on Bhim, who was the second Pandav. So again, it is a folk theatre and ballad singing style from where? From Central India, mainly Chhattisgarh. And there's dramatical reenactment of episodes of Mahabharat, and the focus is on Bhim as the central hero. He was the second Pandav. Okay. Also, it is performed in where? MP, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh too, but mainly in Chhattisgarh. So, in question, you have to mark all of these: Chhattisgarh, MP, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. Okay. Also, next is about the history and the cultural evolution of it. So Pandavani's exact origin is unknown. Nobody knows it, but it is believed by local tradition that it dates back to Mahabharat time, and it preserves the epics through oral storytelling traditions. Okay. Another similar oral storytelling tradition is like this one, the Bengal tradition of ball singers, and then we have narrators in Kathak narrators. These also provide oral storytelling traditions. Then again, there's a gender shift also in Pandavani. Once it was male dominated, And now there's a transformation that came in since 1980s when Tijan Bai and other women like her, they emerged as leading performers, and women also started doing it. So it was initially male dominated and later became gender neutral. There was a gender shift. And also this is a ballad tradition. So Pandavani is oral storytelling, just like ball singers of Bengal and Kathak narrators. Now, again, next thing we have to focus on, what is the key feature of Pandavani. First of all, tambura. Tambura is a multi-prop. So the singer uses a tambura or it is also called iktara. Iktara or tambura. The singer uses it and it is a symbolic prop. It is transformed into Bhima's mace. The tambura where they play it, it is transformed into mace that Bhima used to hit people, and then it is transformed into Arjun's bow, and it is also transformed to Draupadi's hair during the narration. So tambura plays the role of a multi-prop. This is very important. Bhima's mace, Arjun's bow, and Draupadi's hair mid-performance. Also, supporting ensembles include the harmonium, tabla, dholak, manjira. All of these accompany the narration, the oral narration of the storytelling by the narrator, while the supporting singers, they interact through questions, humor, and dramatic commentary. So this is not single one-sided. This is very interactive, and there are different instruments, not just tambura. Tambura plays the role of multiple props, but other instruments are involved like harmonium, tabla, dholak, and manjira. And then people also, the other supporting singers ask the questions, they they do commentary, they also do humor during this oral narration. Also, the Vedamati Shalli. Vedamati Shalli is a structural style based on Doha, Chaupai, meter, or faithful narration. So it is a structured style based on Sabbar Singh Chauhan's Mahabharat in Doha, Chaupai meter. This is a meter. Doha, Chaupai meter. In this meter, it is sung. Okay. And it emphasizes faithful narration of the text. Then we have Kapalik Shali. Kapalik Shali does it, what does it mean? It was made famous by Tijan Bai. This was popularized by Tijan Bai. Okay. Vedamati Shali, please, this is not written here, please write down. This was by Sabbal Singh Chauhan, and Kapalik Shali is by Tijan Bai. Okay. Next, we have talked about the gender shift already. I did tell you that in 1980s, there was a subtle, slight, slow and gradual gender shift, especially by Tijan Bai and other women performers. And now, that is it. This is all. So it is a very rich local dialect and folk idiom rich performance. It is an oral tradition, and there are other oral traditions like it. And then Tijan Bai was a complete Padma Vibhushan awardee, a top performer of this art, who also brought a gender shift to it. She was from the Kapalik Shaili, and then Sabbal Chauhan was from the Vedamati Shaili. This is all through it. Next up, we have the last news, which is the suborbital launch vehicle for experiments, which is called SOLVE. So ISRO has successfully conducted its first static ground test of a new solid motor. It is a motor-based SOLVE or suborbital launch vehicle, mainly for experiments. It happened at the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. Where did it happen? Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Who did this? ISRO. What was done? A first static ground test. Test of what? Suborbital launch vehicle for experiments. Okay. It is what? Solid motor based. Solid motor based. All these lines should be noted in your notes. ISRO conducted a first static ground test of a solid motor based SOLVE suborbital launch vehicle for experiments, and it happened in Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. And the key milestone is validating the Gaganyaan mission's parachute recovery system. Okay, so let us learn about the suboptical launch vehicle for experiments. What is SOLVE? It is a specialized solid propellant based suborbital launch vehicle which is designed by ISRO, and it will serve as an agile test bed for the atmospheric and high altitude experiments. Okay, this is for high altitude and atmospheric experiments. What does it do? It acts as a dedicated cost-effective launch platform, and it will simulate some specific atmospheric re-entry conditions, and it will not deploy a massive multi-stage orbital rocket for that. And the lead space agency is ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. What is the objective? The objective is that the primary aim is to carry out integrated parachute tests for the Gaganyaan mission crew. Okay, and how does it work? It works by controlled solid propulsion. The rocket is launched using a modified slow burning solid propellant. This is very important. Solid propellant. You have to learn this. This is why it is famous. And it has been derived from what? The PSLV strap-on motor. Okay. Again, there is a high altitude transit also. The vehicle carries the experimental cargo, specifically the Gaganyaan crew module prototype, up to the altitude of 10 to 17 kilometer. How much? 10 to 17 kilometer. Then we have payload separation. At this altitude, at the designated apex of 10 to 17 kilometer, the vehicle detaches the crew module, that heavy module it was carrying, the Gaganyaan crew module prototype it was carrying. It gets detached. It is exposed to high velocity slipstream to mimic the actual atmospheric return forces while it's returning to Earth. And then the parachute cascade deployment. So once the module is separated, this module initiates a small automated sequence, and this sequence deploys 10 distinct parachutes in different stages, and this slows the vehicle down before it splashes into the sea. Okay, this is how it functions. Next, let us talk about some next news, which is asteroid Torifune and Hayabusa 2. What is asteroid Torifune and Hayabusa 2? So Hayabusa 2 is the deep space probe of Japan. The Japanese deep space probe Hayabusa performed an incredibly close flyby within 800 meters of near-Earth asteroid Torifune. So near-Earth asteroid Torifune is existing in this space, and NASA's Hayabusa 2, a deep space probe, it flew by it within 800 meters, less than a kilometers. So what is Torifune? Torifune is a sub-kilometer, that is less than 1 kilometer in diameter, nearly 450 meters diameter, a sub-kilometer asteroid. Okay, it is a primitive near-Earth asteroid. It orbits the Sun in close proximity to Earth's orbital path. This is the Sun, and this is the Earth orbiting it, and Torifune orbits it very close to the Earth. So it is a near-Earth asteroid. It serves as a high-value celestial target for both planetary science exploration. We often consider it as a target while measuring our success in planetary science explorations and impact mitigating testing. So it moves within a deep space trajectory. It classifies as potentially hazardous near-Earth object also. Again, what are the key features of Torifune? The estimated dimensions are, as we can see, 450 meters average diameter. It is elongated. The radar data and initial imaging suggests that the structure of this is very elongated or asymmetrical. It is not a perfect sphere. Okay, you have to remember this. It is not written here, but you have to remember this. If you're watching the lecture properly, you will remember this. Sometimes I don't have to provide it all in the slides, because you also need to make your own notes. You need to develop your own understanding of things. And then there's rapid rotational period also. Torifune spins very rapidly on its axis. It completes a full rotation in around 5 hours. In 5 hours, it completes the whole rotation. The Earth completes a rotation in how many hours? 24 hours. So it also presents a shifting visual profile to passing space instruments, because the profile shifts as it moves. About the Hayabusa 2 Explorer, what is it? It is a very sophisticated robotic deep space exploration probe. It was originally engineered for sample returns from operations. So once it has its success in 2020, it delivers the pristine soil samples from the asteroid Ryugu in 2020, and after that the spacecraft entered its extended mission phase. The first mission was complete, now it's the extended mission phase, and now it executes complex flyby missions across various bodies in the solar system. Okay, and the lead entity of making this is JAXA, that is Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. Okay, what is the aim of this extended mission of this Hayabusa 2? After the first mission of returning samples from asteroid Ryugu was completed, the aim is to test whether the spacecraft originally was designed to match the orbit slowly, whether it can navigate with extreme accuracy needed to target or to deflect a fast moving asteroid. It also masters precision guidance system at a very close range. It also provides the proof that a probe can eventually serve as a kinetic impactor and can smash into a threat or divert a threat. And what are the key technical features? It is very compact. Hayabusa 2 is very compact. It is a fridge size footprint. It is a highly efficient and compact cube platform, small, just like a fridge. It is optimized for long duration, deep impact, deep space travel. It has fixed imaging architecture also. It has advanced thruster engines, and autonomously it locks on the target. It employs advanced optical navigation that can see the target and can track the target position up to the point of closest approach, and at the closest point of approach it can ensure high resolution data capture without any ground command. This is all about Hayabusa. Next and last, we have to talk about Indonesia. So Indonesia will celebrate a 15-month commemoration. It will mark the centenary of Rabindranath Tagore's historic 1927 visit to Java, Bali and Sumatra. In 1927, Rabindranath Tagore visited Java, Bali and Sumatra, and this will mark the centenary of it, like 100 years of it. So India will celebrate it for Indonesia will celebrate it for this time a 15-month commemoration. Okay. Now, about this, so Indonesia is officially called the Republic of Indonesia. Okay, it is an archipelago, that is a collection of islands. Where is it located? It is located in the Southeast Asia. We can see this archipelago. The archipelago is a collection of islands, different islands we can see in this archipelago. It is in Southeast Asia. It has around 17,000 islands. How many islands? 17,000 islands, not just the 4 or 5 that you can see here. It stands as the world's largest island country. World's largest island country. It is written here. World's largest island country. And the most populous Muslim majority nation. Muslim majority nation. Most populous Muslim majority nation. So the geographical position is between the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. We can see that. What does it bridge? It bridges the continent of Asia and Oceania, or this Melanesia. And it anchors the maritime highway between South China Sea and the Southern Ocean. It actually anchors this highway also. Okay, what is the national capital? National capital is Jakarta, and the new capital is being located to Nusantara. So the earlier the capital was Jakarta, now the new capital will be Nusantara. What are the bordering nations? As we can easily see, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea and East Timor. What are the key geographical features? That it has volcanic spines, or the Pacific Ring of Fire. It lies at the meeting point of Eurasia, Indo-Australian and Pacific plates. So all the plates combine here, and that is why it has over 120 active volcanoes and frequent earthquakes. Also, let's talk about the Valles line. What is the Valles line? It is a deep sea boundary. It separates the Asian wildlife in western Indonesia. That is, there are Asian wildlife here, and then there are Australian type species in this eastern Indonesia. So this Valles line has a lot of different types of species. It is one of the world's richest biodiversity zones. And then again, let's talk about the visit of Rabindranath Tagore in 1927. So during the 1927 visit to Java, Bali and Sumatra, Rabindranath Tagore, he studied how the Ramayana and Mahabharata were actually preserved through the Indonesian culture and performing arts. This is what he was studying there. Then there was an educational dialogue also. Rabindranath Tagore's Shantiniketan philosophy inspired Ki Hajar Devantara, and he established Indonesia's Taman Siswa schools. Which schools? Taman Siswa schools inspired by the Shantiniketan philosophy. I cannot find my cursor. Okay, here it is. Taman Siswa school inspired by the Shantiniketan philosophy. Okay. And then we talk about the artistic exchange. So Rabindranath Tagore introduced the Javanese batik technique to Bengal. So batik technique that initially belonged to Indonesia was transferred and taken to Bengal by Rabindranath Tagore. And this batik tradition was followed in Shantiniketan after that. So the batik tradition of Shantiniketan blended the Indonesian craftsmanship and Indian designs. So these are a few important things that you have to read today. Please read them properly, make your own questions, answer a few mocks, and be done with today's current affair, because tomorrow we're coming with new current affairs. Thank you so much.